Tonight's bold accusation, Jodi shot last. Tonight, 12 jurors here in studio, and you, our online jury at home, will decide if Jodi Arias is guilty or not guilty of shooting Travis Alexander after stabbing him. Jodi says she was attacked and chased by Travis and shot him with his gun, which she grabbed out of the closet. But tonight, I'll prove to you, our online jury at home, and our in-studio jury, that Jodi shot last. I'll take you back to the scene to show you all the forensics, which proved she stabbed him first and shot him last. You'll see the bullet trajectory, the casing on top of the blood, and the internal injuries.
I have no memory of stabbing him.
As he sat there, she took the knife and began to stab him. Stuck the knife in his chest.
And as that camera was falling, that was enough for Travis, because he lunged at Jodi in anger.
No, I closed my eyes, I think, as the gun began to go off.
He struggled. He grabbed the knife, a big blotch of blood that's there. And that's where the slitting, ear to ear, took place. He was more likely than not dead at that point. He didn't need that shot to the head.
I grabbed the gun. I ran out of the closet. He said, "Kill you, bitch."
There was a struggle. Jodi's life was in danger.
He got like a linebacker. He got kind of low and grabbed my waist. He went like that and he turned his head.
There's a bullet going through the brains.
Is that an indication that the person was already dead?
It may have been, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, it's the forensics that prove the case tonight, the forensics that prove Jodi shot last. I went back to the scene with two investigators, one from the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office, Joseph Scott Morton, and Mike Brooks, 27 years law enforcement. Here's what we did. All right, let's start here, 5:30, because this was the picture of Travis Alexander obviously sitting in the shower. We don't know if he's alive or dead, but a minute 44 later, we know he is dead in this photo. So how do we get from here to here? What's your theory? And tell me why you don't believe he was shot first, but was stabbed first.
My theory here, there's one of two ways that we can look at this. Either Travis was down in the shower on the floor, Jodi enters the shower, and over his shoulder begins to stab him in the back. Okay?
Or he could have come right over the top and stabbed him in the front, you know, because that was 3 inches, because he was still in a position of vulnerability. And then with the different wounds he has on his back, because he had 9 stab wounds and a 5 by 6.5 inch area on his back, and also some glancing blows off of his head where he could have been trying to get out of the way of the knife.
That's an excellent point, Mike. And I think the most important thing here is that that group of stabbings is so tight in his back. He has to be in a confined space,
like a shower,
or on the floor where he's in an asymmetrical position where he's able to be dominated. Now, the other theory is that he could have been rotated so he was facing away, hands maybe up. She comes in and begins to attack him from the rear with a knife over and over and over. And he's aware of this. He rotates back around in order to defend himself. And we have defensive wounds on the hand. He grabs a blade. She pulls it out, sticks it in again, pulls it out. And the next time, she nails him right in the chest. Wow, right into the vena cava, major vessel in the heart, and he begins to bleed out internally. Then, at this point in time, he moves from this point over to the sink. Now, we have what's referred to as fine aspirate on the sink. In this area here, you can see this is generated as a result of medium velocity power. He is essentially regurgitating blood onto this area. He's coughing this up. He's spitting blood up, not to mention these other places. He's got blood on his hands. We've got contact areas of blood here.
So how do we end up from here over by the sink to down the hallway?
Well, I think human nature kicks in at this point. He's trying to put as much distance between himself and his attacker at this point. And it's at this point he could probably go no further. Remember, he's been stabbed.
When you say go no further, you mean he's on the ground.
Right,
yeah.
And he's on the ground. He's face down. He can go no further.
He's been stabbed in the back. He's been stabbed in the chest.
Absolutely.
And he's trying to get back to his bedroom, I think, his refuge point.
Exactly.
Trying to get away from her, but he can't because he's dying, basically.
Exactly.
What about the slit throat?
Well, what I think is that she moves in for the kill at this point. She's left-handed, so she's going to cut his throat. She's above him. Remember, she's a tiny woman. The weight of his head, the weight of his neck is going to help facilitate the depth of this cut. And let's keep in mind what was cut. Both his right carotid and his right jugular vein. Man, that was deep.
Exactly. And she came up on him. It wasn't down here. It was right underneath his chest in an upward fashion, Vinny. So when she went ear to ear. You know, the testimony was they couldn't tell, but she's left-handed. That's her strong hand. That's a hand that I think she was going to use. And that cut, the testimony says, was 3 to 4 inches deep.
Bottom line, guys, we look at the forensic evidence in the hallway, the bathroom. Does it tell you stabbed first or shot first?
For me personally, it tells me he was stabbed first. It was a sharp force injury that started this whole thing in motion. I think the shot comes later.
No doubt in my mind. I totally agree.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard from the prosecution. Let's bring back in the defense team, Ashley Merchant and Yale Galanter. And what they wanted me to start with, they have their own medical examiner who offered his take on this, Dr. Michael Suture. Take a look.
The entry and exit point would have put the gunshot wound through the frontal area of the brain, which is called the frontal lobe. That does not affect vital functions like breathing and motor function. And again, because of where that wound occurred and where it injured the brain, would not have impacted Travis in a way that he would have been incapacitated.
Ashley Merchant, tell the jury why that's important to them.
This is very important because we are here to argue that the bold accusation that Jodi stabbed him and then later shot him is not true. Because as the doctor said, she could have shot him first. He would not have necessarily been incapacitated. So he could have still attacked her after that point, and he could have still gotten those defensive wounds from when he was being stabbed by her, could have gotten those defensive wounds on his back. So it's very plausible that he was shot first.
And Ashley, you also wanted to point out to the jury this right here, the body comparisons between Travis and Jodi. What should that tell them?
I think this is very important because as a woman, what are you going to pick up first? You're going to pick up the gun or are you going to pick up a knife? You're going to pick up the gun. If you look at Jodi Arias' body next to Travis Alexander, she is a much weaker opponent. And so in a case where you've got the choice of weapons between a gun or a knife, you're going to pick the gun up and you're going to shoot first. And I think it makes sense if you look at their body compositions.
All right, and ladies and gentlemen, the defense team wants to show you a soundbite from the prosecution's witness, the medical examiner in this case. They say it's illuminating for their point. Take a look.
In terms of the shot to the head, do you have any opinion as to whether or not he was alive at the time that that shot was struck?
I can't say.
Yeah, what should that tell the jury?
The reason there was no bleeding and there was no intracranial bleeding, according to the medical examiner, was because that first shot did not incapacitate him. He was coming at her like a 190-pound linebacker, and the only way she could protect herself was to grab that knife that was real close and start stabbing him in the back. The only way those wounds could have been in his back is if he reached over, she reached over to him and started stabbing him, because that first shot did nothing.
All right, our ladies and gentlemen of the jury have reached a verdict. I can tell you from listening, not eavesdropping on their discussions, that they had a tough time with this one. Let's go with number one. What do you say? Juror number one, guilty. Juror number two, guilty. Juror number three, guilty. Juror number four, not guilty. Juror number five, guilty. Juror number six, guilty. Juror number seven, guilty. Juror number eight, guilty. Juror number 9, guilty. Juror number 10, guilty. Juror number 11, not guilty. Juror number 12, guilty. So 10-2, guilties have it on this one. Juror number 4, why did you say not guilty?
I mean, common sense tells me that she did it last as the last hurrah, but they can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So, I mean, even the medical examiner said that he wasn't sure whether or not he was shot first or last.
So the medical examiner also hanging your hat on the reasonable doubt as well. Now, juror number 9, why did you say guilty?
I find it hard to believe that you only fire the gun once.